This happened when a young boy went inside an abandoned house that had been left empty for over 30 years. It's one of the scariest things that's ever happened to a person. So let's go. It all started when a young boy named Alex heard some ghost stories about a creepy, abandoned house that was located in his neighborhood. He decided to go investigate. But what he found was far beyond anything that he could have ever imagined. As he walked up to the front door, the streetlights flickered above him. And as they flickered, ominous shadows danced across his face. After the streetlights flickered a few more times, suddenly the light from them completely disappeared. All of a sudden, Alex found himself in total darkness. Trying not to panic, he felt around for his flashlight and quickly turned it on. As the beam of light cut through the darkness, he walked up the stairs to the front porch and knocked on the door. But as he knocked, a large gust of wind suddenly slammed the door open. With the door now open, Alex took a deep breath and stepped inside. The interior of the home was very dusty and filled with cobwebs, and it looked like nobody had set foot inside since the 1950s. As he walked deeper inside, he noticed a painting on the wall that had a strange image. It almost looked like a demon or something. Alex didn't want to stand there any longer, so he quickly tried to find the source of the noise he heard. As he made his way through the home, he noticed that every single room was pitch black. Suddenly, he heard some whispers coming from upstairs. They sounded like they were coming from the room at the end of the hall. Slowly but surely, Alex crept closer to the staircase and began to walk up. Each step he took seemed to be extremely loud, like thunder in his ears. As he got closer to the room at the end of the hall, he could hear the whispers becoming louder and louder. Then finally, right as he was about to reach the room, the door suddenly slammed shut and locked itself. Startled, Alex ran towards the door and began to knock on it. But as he did, the whispers suddenly stopped. Alex continued to knock on the door, yelling for help, but his pleas went unanswered. As he stood there knocking, he felt a cold breeze go across his neck. Then he heard footsteps coming down the hallway. At first, they were slow and dragging, but then as they got closer to him, they began to pick up the pace. As the footsteps neared, Alex panicked and ran into the other room. It was a child's room with a rocking horse in the corner. There were also some dolls sitting on the shelf staring blankly ahead. But what was most eerie was the rocking chair in the corner. It was slowly moving back and forth without anybody being in it. Alex knew he needed to get out of there, so he sprinted to the window and climbed onto the ledge. Just as he was about to escape, the window suddenly slammed shut. He tried to open it again, but it wouldn't budge. Startled, he whipped around just in time to see one of the dolls fall off the shelf. But that wasn't the only thing that had moved. The rocking chair was now moving much faster than before, and the rocking horse in the corner had also begun to move on its own. And that's when Alex heard a voice that said, "Leave." Startled, Alex jumped off the window ledge. And as he turned around, he saw the rocking chair moving faster than it had before. The chair suddenly stopped, and then the rocking horse began to move on its own. The horse reared back and neighed loudly. Alex screamed and ran to the door. As he ran, he could feel his heart beating in his chest. The door was slightly ajar, so he pushed it open and ran through. But as he ran, he could hear the horse neighing and the chair screeching behind him. Then suddenly, right as he was about to reach the stairs, the door slammed shut behind him. Trapped, Alex began to scream for help, but his cries echoed through the empty house and nobody answered. Then, right as he was about to lose all hope, he saw a small sliver of light coming from underneath the door. He crawled towards it and reached out his hand. The moment his fingers touched the light, it disappeared. And then, all of a sudden, the room was plunged into darkness once again. He could hear the whispers in his ear, getting louder and louder. And then suddenly, they turned into voices. They were calling his name. But the creepiest part was that they sounded like they were coming from underneath the bed. That's when Alex got the idea to crawl under the bed. He scooted to the edge and then lowered himself down. It was dusty and smelled like mildew. And as he crawled further, he could hear the voices getting louder and closer. Then suddenly, he saw a pair of feet. They were pale and bony. He watched in horror as they slowly began to move closer. Then right as they reached him, the flashlight fell from his pocket and landed on the ground. As the seconds ticked by, Alex watched in terror as the feet moved closer. Then suddenly, a hand reached out and grabbed his ankle. Alex screamed, but his voice was muffled by the dust. Slowly but surely, whatever was under the bed began to pull him in. Then right as it was about to drag him all the way in, Alex grabbed onto a board that was laying underneath the bed. Panting heavily, he pulled himself back to the surface and scrambled away. But as he looked back, he could see a pale, ghostly figure crawling out from underneath the bed. Its limbs were twisted at unnatural angles, and its eyes were hollow and black. Alex screamed and ran for the door. But as he did, the ghostly figure began to move faster. Then suddenly, it leaped towards him. Startled, Alex tripped and fell to the ground. The ghostly figure loomed over him and reached out a hand towards him. With his last bit of strength, Alex grabbed the flashlight and flicked it on. The beam of light struck the ghostly figure, and it let out a loud wail. The figure stumbled back and then vanished into thin air. Alex was left sitting on the ground, shaking and scared. He knew he needed to get out of there, so he slowly made his way to the door and opened it. Outside, the sun was shining and birds were tweeting. It was like nothing had happened. Alex ran to his bike and rode as fast as he could away from the house. As he pedaled, he could hear the screams echoing behind him. Then suddenly, the screams stopped. Shaking and scared, Alex turned around, but all he saw was a pair of feet running after him. Alex raced through the streets, but the feet kept getting closer. Then suddenly, the screen began to glitch violently. The feet were now right behind him. Then suddenly, a pair of hands reached out and grabbed him. Screaming, Alex struggled to free himself, but it was no use. The hands were too strong. Then suddenly, the screen flashed white and everything went silent. The camera hit the ground and landed on its side. On the screen, you could see the child's room with the flashlight laying on the floor, still on. Alex was nowhere to be found. Some people say that he was never seen again. Maybe that's because he's trapped forever inside the abandoned house. Or maybe that's because the ghost of the child that lived there before him woe and let him leave. So if you ever hear footsteps in an abandoned house, don't follow them. And if you ever see a pale, ghostly figure crawling out from underneath a bed, run away. Because if you don't, it might just drag you into its world. Thank you for watching.